The humiliation was designed to break her. Staff Sergeant Rachel Moore understood that. Understanding didn't make it easier. "Strip down to your sports bra and shorts, Sergeant." Now Captain Hendricks' voice carried across the formation. 40 soldiers stood at attention in the midday sun. Watching. Waiting. This was the third random inspection in 2 weeks, always targeting Rachel, always in front of everyone. The message was clear. Women didn't belong in combat units, especially women who'd transferred in from outside assignments. Especially women who wouldn't sleep with their commanding officer. Rachel's hands moved to her uniform buttons, fingers steady despite the rage burning in her chest. She'd survived worse than this. Afghanistan, 2019. Embedded with local forces, barely escaping an ambush that killed 3 of her team. She'd earned her place here. But Hendricks didn't care about credentials, he cared about control. Her uniform shirt hit the ground, then her pants. She stood in regulation athletic wear, eyes forward, jaw clenched. Around her, some soldiers looked away uncomfortably, others smirked. Hendricks circled her slowly, a predator enjoying the hunt. "Turn around, Sergeant, let's make sure you're not hiding any contraband." She turned, knowing what was coming. The tattoo covered most of her spine, intricate and impossible to miss aerobic calligraphy flowing into geometric patterns, black ink against pale skin. She felt the moment Hendricks saw it, felt the sharp intake of breath from someone in the formation. Well, Hendricks' voice dripped with mock concern. "That's quite the decoration, Sergeant. Care to explain why you've got terrorist writing on your back? Maybe you want to tell us what it says?" The formation shifted. Murmurs rippled through the ranks. Rachel kept her eyes on the horizon, refusing to give him the satisfaction of a response. "I asked you a question, Sergeant." Hendricks stepped closer, his voice lowering to something dangerous. "What does it say? Some kind of jihadi love letter? Maybe you're not who you claim to be." "It's a memorial, sir." Rachel's voice was flat, emotionless, "for friends killed in action." "Friends," Hendricks laughed, "or comrades? Because from where I'm standing, this looks like attention." A new voice cut through the air like a blade. The entire formation snapped rigid. Rachel's heart stopped. She knew that voice. Commander James Sullivan, base CO, a man who rarely left his office and never interfered with unit-level discipline. She turned her head slightly and saw him striding across the field, his face carved from granite. "Captain Hendricks, what the hell is going on here?" Sullivan's question wasn't a question. It was an indictment. Hendricks straightened, but his confidence didn't waver. "Random inspection, sir. Standard protocol. I was just questioning Sergeant Moore about some concerning body art that shut up." Sullivan moved past him, approaching Rachel. His eyes found the tattoo and something flickered across his face recognition. Then fury. Then something that looked like grief. "Sergeant Moore, do you know what this says?" "Yes, sir." Rachel's voice cracked slightly. "Every word. Translate it for me. For everyone here." She took a breath. "It says, they gave their tomorrow for our today." Then 5 names: Amir, Rashid, Hassan, Layla, Fatima, my interpreters in Kandahar province. "They died protecting me during an extraction." Sullivan nodded slowly. "I know, I signed their commendation reports." He turned to face the formation, his voice rising. "These 5 people were Afghan nationals who worked with US forces for 3 years. They had families, they had children. And when Sergeant Moore's convoy was ambushed, when her entire team was pinned down and taking fire, these 5 civilians, not soldiers, civilians, they drew enemy fire away from our people. They died so 8 Americans could make it home." The field had gone silent. Even Hendricks looked uncertain now. Sullivan continued, his voice tight with controlled rage. "Sergeant Moore took shrapnel in 2 places, dragging their bodies out. She refused evacuation until all 5 were recovered, even though local militia were closing in. She personally ensured they received proper burial rites according to their faith. And she got that tattoo during her recovery because the army wouldn't authorize a formal memorial." He stepped closer to Hendricks, close enough that the captain had to look up to meet his eyes. "So when you call those names terrorist writing, when you humiliate a decorated soldier in front of her unit, when you imply that honoring fallen allies makes her a traitor, you're not just insulting her. You're insulting every person who ever risked their life to help us. You're spitting on everything we claim to stand for." Hendricks' face had gone white. "Sir, I didn't know. You didn't ask. You saw Arabic and assumed enemy. You saw a woman and assumed weakness. You saw someone who wouldn't play your games and decided to destroy her." Sullivan's voice dropped to something deadly quiet. "Pack your things, Captain. You're relieved of command, effective immediately. There will be a full investigation into your conduct, and I promise you, what we find will end your career." He turned to Rachel, his expression softening. "Sergeant Moore, get dressed, then report to my office." He raised his voice to address the formation. "The rest of you, remember this. Real soldiers don't diminish sacrifice. They honor it, no matter what language it's written in." Dismissed. 2 hours later, Rachel sat across from Sullivan in his office. The fury had faded from his face, replaced by weariness. "I should have stopped him sooner," he said quietly. "I'd heard rumors about Hendricks, but I didn't act fast enough. That's on me. You stopped him today, sir. That's what matters." Sullivan nodded, then pulled out a folder. "I'm transferring you. Not as punishment, as an opportunity. We need senior NCOs for a new cultural liaison program. training soldiers to work effectively with local populations in conflict zones. Your experience, your languages, your understanding, we need that. We need people who know that winning wars isn't just about killing enemies. It's about honoring allies. Rachel felt something loosen in her chest, something she hadn't realized was wound so tight. I'd be honored, sir. Good. He stood, extended his hand. And Sergeant, those names on your back, they weren't just your friends. Amir was my interpreter on my first deployment. He saved my life too. She shook his hand, understanding now why he'd reacted so strongly. They'd both carried the same ghosts, the same debt to people who'd believed in something bigger than borders or flags. Walking out into the sunlight, Rachel felt different, lighter. The tattoo on her spine had been a private memorial, a burden she carried alone. Now it was something else, a reminder that some people saw beyond surface judgments, that honor had no nationality, and that standing up for what was right sometimes meant standing completely exposed. She'd been stripped down to humiliate her. Instead, she'd been stripped down to her truth, and her truth was strong enough to stand in any light.